Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty Show. Back with you again, Ali and James. And yeah, James, we are flying through the preseason. So we've had 2 preseason games now. We are into our 3rd week. And yeah, the season is almost upon us. So there has been obviously some talk this week about a certain running back you will be familiar with that has been put on the market by the sound of it by the Washington Commanders, Brian Robinson. Just want to get your thoughts on the situation surrounding him, as you are the resident Commanders fan. Do you think it's a good move? Do you think, because I've got question marks about it, because I see the Commanders as contenders, and I think it's a bit of a strange time to be shopping someone like Robinson, who's been so reliable the last couple of seasons with you. Obviously not elite, but I think he's done a job. And then sort of piggybacking off that, more of a dynasty spin. Do you feel like Austin Ekeler could be potential value now? Obviously, there's a certain someone that everybody in the dynasty community is talking about at the minute, which we'll go on to. But yeah, do you think potentially Austin Ekeler could have more of a role this year if Brian Robinson was to leave?
Yeah, I agree. It's a bit of a strange one from the outside. If you're looking at it, like, why would a team that made the conference championship game and haven't really done a lot at the position? Obviously, we're going to talk about someone in a bit, but yeah, it's a 7th round pick, so you're not really thinking that's a replacement for your running back one, basically. I think, without sort of spoiling what I'm going to say when we talk about that rookie running back in a bit, but the Commanders are, I think, screaming out for someone just more explosive in the backfield, and obviously Jaden Daniels is that weapon, but they just need someone else in the backfield who can score on any given play. And I think just Brian Robinson, like you said, he's a solid running back. He's just not a real threat, to the opposing defenses can just key in on Daniels, and they're just not going to be worried about Robinson. Obviously, short down situations, he can churn away and get you 4 or 5 yards every play. And he's reliable, and he's going to keep doing that. So from that perspective, it is a bit strange, but they obviously think that without him, they have enough in the backfield. And we're not just talking about that one running back, like you've mentioned Austin Ekeler there. Now, obviously Austin Ekeler has his flaws, and he's getting on a bit, but in his prime, he was that explosive guy who, maybe he's not overly reliable, and he's going to be a few plays where he loses yards, but he could score and every touch of the ball. He's really good as a pass catcher, which Brian Robinson potentially isn't. I think the overall answer for, is Ekeler going to be some sort of value now? It's just, it'd be more valuable than he was, but the level of confidence that we're going to have in him at his age is just going to be so low that I just don't know how you can really be confident in him. But yeah, it seems like the Commanders are happy to roll with Ekeler on those passing downs, and then they're going to have sort of a muddle of other running backs that they think can offer just as much as Brian Robinson can on the early downs. And obviously, if they can move on for him and get a little bit of something for him, I'd still be surprised if they cut him, because they're not saving a lot. But if they can get a really late round pick swap, then at least they're getting some return of value back when they're going to get, they deem, similar production from the other running backs that they've got.
Just trying to think how old Austin Ekeler is. He's got to be
30, 31. 30. He's not like ancient, but in running back age, he is.
Yeah, he's done well for himself, hasn't he? From where he was, as a rookie, and to the career that he's forged, I think he's done great. And I think he's going to be a solid piece for you this year. Obviously, unless a certain someone breaks out in a big way, as you did tease that, the 7th round pick. So we will go into our preseason winners and losers, and we are going to start with the winners. And we're going to throw it over to you, James, because we are going to keep on the theme of the Commanders with your winner and someone that sort of everybody is talking about right now in terms of picking up and the value that has just gone almost through the roof. So who's your first winner, James?
Yeah, this is the most obvious one that we're going to have, I think. So Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt, Bill, as he likes to be known. But if you look up why he likes to be known Bill, you might not want to call him that, but we won't go into it. So obviously we've already gone into this. The Commanders are rumoured to be looking to move on from Brian Robinson, and then obviously there's a preseason game and they held him out of that game. So yeah, the rumours have basically been confirmed that they're looking to sort of move him on. Normally, I would say it's sensible to let someone else follow the hype of a 7th round rookie. But yeah, you just can't ignore the drumbeat forever. Like the beat reporters for the Commanders have been sort of talking about him all training camp, and now obviously we've got a bit more information. So what I would say is it's best to catch up now, or to get on board now before sort of the ADP really changes and he is being drafted as the running back 1 on the team. And obviously we're into redraft season, and pretty much any casuals that have not been following the training camp and preseason and games and things like that, they're going to be eventually catching up on the news. So yeah, now's the time to get on board before everyone does. And as I've said already, it's no secret, I don't think, that the Commanders are looking for someone a bit more explosive. I'll be honest, I don't know if Bill is that guy, but they obviously think that he can give them just as much as Robinson can, and obviously he's cheaper. He's going to be on the team next year, whereas Brian Robinson isn't going to be on the team next year. I am surprised that they would look to do this. I think Robinson missed 3 games last year and they lost 2 of them, but they were games to the Ravens and the Steelers. So, obviously the Steelers aren't the best of teams, but they were pretty good at that stage of the season, and they still averaged 25, 26 points in those games. Did struggle to run the ball, but I think the running game wasn't great all season outside of Jaden Daniels anyway. So with the improvements to the offensive line, hopefully they're basically just thinking that they can get the same production from the other running backs. And obviously talking about Bill, he fell to the 7th round in the draft, but he only played 1 game, didn't he, last year, because he had some sort of eligibility issues or something. So, it's a surprise to see a 7th round running back sort of spoken about in this way, but maybe he isn't really a 7th round running back in talent wise, but he only really had 1 season of production. So yeah, it's hard to say. But yeah, like I've mentioned already, we need to sort of be aware that this isn't going to be just the Croskey-Merritt show. Like the reason he's the biggest riser is because he's going to make the roster and he's going to be, contributing in games. And a few weeks ago, we didn't think that was going to be the case. But this isn't going to be his backfield. There's still going to be Eckler heavily involved. There's going to be Chris Rodriguez heavily involved. So yeah, this isn't a guy who's going to get 20 touches a game. And I doubt we're going to be starting him every week in Dynasty. It would probably be matchup dependent. But how often were we confident in starting Brian Robinson last year? There would certainly be some matchups like those games against the Ravens and Steelers where you didn't want to start a running back for the Commanders. And if you did, you probably wanted the pass catcher like Eckler anyway. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you're not going to be confident in him every week. But yeah, if you've probably taken him off waivers in your rookie drafts if you've done them a month or 2 ago. So yeah, that's a significant change. And so for me, he's definitely the biggest riser.
Yeah, I've certainly seen a few trades out there where he has been traded for a 2nd round pick. A lot of people are loving the fact that they've picked him up off waivers, sold him for a 2nd. That seems like good business to me. It is going to be absolutely fascinating because obviously Jaden Daniels is a rusher himself. Chris Rodriguez got some serious touches the other night. I think he touched the ball first as well, which is always important, and looked great doing it. So it's just an odd one, isn't it? 24-year-old running back with 1 year of production basically in college, and just comes out of nowhere that we don't expect. It's great, makes great content for us to talk about him and to follow him and support him, and yeah, really rooting for him. Got a couple of shares of him. Obviously wish I would have picked up more, because I think you can certainly, if you've got him in 5 or 6 different leagues, then if you can flip him every time for a 2nd in 2 or 3 leagues, then that sounds pretty good to me, because I don't see him being a long-term starter for the Commanders, but it should be at least be fun this year. And yeah, definitely the biggest winner of the first 2 weeks of preseason. So move on to I've cheated a little bit because I've gone for a couple of players that I think it's obviously going to be compared to each other with where they went in the draft this year. We're talking about the 2 top tight ends, rookie tight ends, Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren. There's plenty to talk about which one of the two is the best one for Dynasty, best one for their team, and sort of long term. I've sort of been on the Tyler Warren side, and I absolutely love Colston Loveland. And yeah, these two are just absolutely by the hip. They're neck and neck, and they've both been really, really big winners in the preseason so far. And more so surprisingly for me, for Loveland, I thought maybe it would be a bit slower with Croskey-Merritt there, but Tyler Warren's absolutely smashed it. And yeah, the Bears, everyone's talking about the Bears and their big win against the Bills, which I think means not a lot at this stage, but I think what you have seen is the potential for Ben Johnson's offense just to really explode potentially in 2025 behind Caleb Williams, that just looks like a complete different animal this year. He looks more composed. I think that Ben Johnson will simplify the offense for him, so there'll be shorter passes, design screens that we saw quite a lot already. He managed to make what Jared Goff was quarterback 6, 7, 8 last year was, for the last 2 or 3 seasons in a row, he's been like top 10 quarterback, and that's without rushing. So if you add Caleb Williams that can scramble as well, I think it's pretty exciting. And yeah, absolutely love the fact that the first play from scrimmage against the Bills was that design screen to Colston Loveland, almost went for a first down, and just they've got the tight end involved big time already, which is exciting because I think Croskey-Merritt's he's going to be a factor. They're going to be heavy in 2 tight end sets, which is why I tweeted out today. I wonder which sort of wide receiver misses out a little bit. I think that will be interesting because they've been talking up Luther Burden really, really heavily. So interested to see how that works. But I just know that Colston Loveland, who's played, was it 34 out of 35 snaps so far with the starters, I think that cements his place. 4 catches for 65 yards. I think that he's going to be. I thought that potentially it could be slow for him year one, and he could build into that really solid elite tight end for Dynasty. But it looks like from game one he could be really involved in the offense, and the same for Tyler Warren for me. We've obviously saw today that Daniel Jones has been named the starter, which I think is probably a good thing for Tyler Warren. Maybe it's difficult to. They talked about Daniel Jones being the more stable of the 2 quarterbacks, which is quite funny because he's been one of the most unstable quarterbacks in the NFL throughout his career. But I look at their offense. I look at Tyler Warren, and I'm just absolutely so excited for what I see and what I think the potential could be really from the first season. Benjamin Solak been listening to him on ESPN, and he said he could easily lead the team in targets from his rookie season. Would not be surprised there. He just looks like a veteran, a seasoned veteran out there, and the weapons that he's got around him there's obviously less than there is in Chicago. Josh Downs, who I've got really big hopes for this year, he's gone down with a hamstring injury. We don't know how long he's going to be out for. Hopefully he will play game one, but who knows if he doesn't. It just means even more targets in sort of the slot area for Tyler Warren. So I just think that these two that we've got sort of going towards the back end of round 1, early round 2 in rookie drafts, I think whatever you manage to pay for him, even if it was the 109, 110 onwards, I think it just seems like a really, really solid investment right now. And yeah, these two both, although it's kind of expected, I think for me they're both winners in my eyes.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because they're they're winners for different reasons, aren't they? Because of how different the offenses are and their situations. I think I might talk about this with one of the other players, but we heavily focus on landing spot a lot of the time, don't we? But someone could land in that awful offense, and if we really hate Daniel Jones, or if it's Anthony Richardson at some point, but he could potentially end up being much better for fantasy. But obviously, they both look in store for a good season. Yeah,
and I think with Tyler Warren, I think the Colts are going to have an early pick in my eyes next year, so they're going to be looking at another rookie quarterback coming in, which I think is going to be fine for Tyler Warren. I think he's that sort of player where he's going to be featured heavily to help the quarterback on, as he will with Daniel Jones this year. So got no real worries for him. And for me, they're both top 5 dynasty tight ends already. So excited to see them play this season. And James, this is someone that, I mean, he's just exploded from game 1. Another touchdown for Trevion Henderson this week, and you've got him as your second preseason winner.
Yeah, there's a theme here, isn't there? For me, it's the rookie running backs. But this is just what happens, isn't it? Because you get the preseason games happen, and that's when the rookie running backs seem to get their touches. And yeah, we were here with Henderson. We're not the only ones, obviously, but we were here with Henderson before the draft. I think Mags actually had him as his running back 2 pre-draft, and we both had him as running back 3. But yeah, it was a little bit disappointing. Obviously, he got picked a couple of picks behind Judkins. But for me, he always felt like, so that meant he was drafted as running back 4. But for me, he always felt like the one that was going to be better for fantasy. And we were, in our pre-draft shows and everything, we were in agreement on that. I think the concerns were obviously, drafted by the Patriots, and they had Ramondre Stevenson there. So was he going to be just a passing down back? But in preseason, they've just been getting him involved in every way they can. Obviously, even kick returns. I think, he's been used as an every down back. He's been early downs, running the ball. So it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be an every down back as soon as the season starts. Sort of Stevenson's still there, and he got that contract last year. So it's going to be an uphill struggle for Henderson to win over the backfield. But he will certainly do it at some point. If it's not before the end of this season, it'll be next season or whenever Stevenson ends up leaving. But with Ramondre Stevenson and with any running back, there's always that chance that there's an injury there. And we now know basically that if that does happen with Stevenson, then Henderson is going to sort of take over the whole backfield, really, because there's only Antonio Gibson there. And when he does that, he's going to have weekly running back 1 upside, and he's going to be the first name on your rosters. Like, he's going to be a huge target in DFS and everything like that. The Patriots they don't have any good players. Obviously, they've got Diggs. Some people like Carl Williams, and obviously we like Drake May. They don't have any good players. Henderson is very good, so he's going to be a huge part of the offense. Whether they ease him in is because he's a rookie. You've seen in preseason that isn't going to matter because he's so explosive that he can score every time he touches the ball. You probably were able to get him in the second half of rookie drafts, that maybe 6, 7, 8 slot sometimes. Some people love him and were taking him really early, but typically he was available around that spot. And if you're a playoff team, a team that scraped into the playoff last year, and you managed to get yourself Henderson, then you're laughing, really. I think we both have him now as our dynasty running back 8 on that the ranking show we did a couple of weeks ago. But in a year he could easily be running back 4, top 5 for sure. It's easy to do this with rookie running backs. And I had a question for you, which was, obviously he shares the backfield now with Ramondre Stevenson. I've cherry picked a specific date here, which you can probably realise why I've done this. But on the 5th of July, 2023, was Stevenson's ranking on Keep Trade Cut, the consensus running back rankings, was it higher or lower than Henderson's is right now?
Wow. So running back. So what is that?
Henderson's running back 8 now.
So we're with consensus. God, I think you've cherry picked that because you're going to say Stevenson's was higher. God.
Yeah, well, it wasn't higher; it was the same. So it's a trick question.
Wow.
But so this is obviously after his rookie season, and he had a few good games at the end of the year, and then obviously shot up to that running back 8. It didn't take long. A few days later, he was back down to 10, 13, which is probably where he settled before that season started. But obviously you can get overhyped about these young running backs quite quickly, and things can go wrong. But with Henderson, it's just everything's just in line for him to sort of take over this backfield within the next couple of years. And like I said, if there's an injury right now in this season, Stevenson, and he's injured right now, he missed the last preseason game with an injury. So if that continues, then he's going to really blow up and sort of take over that backfield sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think he's every bit could be a top 5 dynasty running back at the end of the season, perhaps even sooner than that if he is showing out and receiving more of the work than Stevenson. I do think that Stevenson is going to be slightly annoying to Henderson owners, at least this season and probably the first half of the season, because I think as long as Stevenson's healthy, I think the Patriots really like him. I think obviously they paid him quite a lot of money at the time. So I think that he will share the load. But we've obviously seen Henderson share the load with Quinton Judkins last season at Ohio State, and they both played at an incredibly high level. They were both productive. So I've got no concerns about him sharing the load, because I don't think we expect Henderson to be an RB1 this year. I think that if he was to finish RB1, then he would absolutely be a top 5 dynasty running back come 2026. But what I like about Henderson, obviously he's got the background at Ohio State, played at incredibly high level in college, won the national championship, and comes to a team that's ascending. I think the Patriots, I think that's all their over-under is what, 8.5 wins, which is probably the highest that it's been for a long time. And I think a lot of that is down to Drake May. I think the coaching is better. I think the team is building in the right way. So I do see the Patriots being a team that can do some sort of damage this year. Probably will take a scout, but then 2026 they'll probably be more of a contender towards, fighting the Bills for the division. So it's an ascending offense with a really, really good ascending quarterback. And I think this is probably the cheapest that you're going to get Henderson. Even if it's at RB8, you're probably not going to get him any cheaper than that at all. I think his value could shoot up after the season. So yeah, a big winner, been really, really impressive. Looks so explosive in preseason, which is great. And yeah, excited to see him. I'm going to move on to a running back that has been explosive in the past. Certainly wasn't explosive in 2024, but looks back to his old self. So I'm going to talk about Ollie Gordon. So we're going to continue the theme of rookie running backs in this year. And James, you mentioned a 7th round pick in good old Bill, the first guy. I'm going for a 6th round pick in Ollie Gordon. That, yeah, I mean, got a couple of Devy shares of Ollie Gordon and can't believe he slipped to the 6th round. Was a bit gutted, but the landing spot seems to have been, really, really almost perfect for his skill set and sort of the situation that he finds himself in right now. So you just want to remember back to 2023, where he had his unbelievable season that in the Devy realms, everybody was talking about Ollie Gordon as potentially the RB1 of the class. 1,732 rushing yards and 22 touchdowns in 2023 was elite. And then it sort of all went wrong in 2024, struggled O-line, and yeah, didn't put it together, and obviously fell to the 6th round. Just shows how fragile that them sort of Devy pieces can be. And it didn't quite work out. But obviously finds himself on a Miami offense that there's a hell of a lot of question marks about this year. I think the whole Miami team in general, I think they could have an absolute stinker this year and finish potentially bottom of the division. But he finds himself vying for that RB2 role behind Devon Achane. Unfortunately, Devon Achane is now banged up. But hopefully they talk about not being too serious and that he should be out there for week 1. He's been up against Jalen Wright, and Jalen Wright is another one that I've been sort of high on previously. But he's just looked absolutely awful in preseason. The comparison of Jalen Wright's had 13 touches and rushed 19 yards. I think I could probably rush for 19 yards and 13 touches. And Ollie Gordon, in comparison, 21 touches. So he's out-touched him almost 2-1, and he's rushed for 131 yards. He looks explosive. He looks much bigger back, stronger, rushes violently, seems to have regained that mojo from 2023. So that's really good. Obviously, Alexander Mattison, who was in the mix as well, he went down to season end, and I think it was a neck injury. And yeah, obviously not going to be there now. So he's not in line to have touches away from Ollie Gordon. So yeah, I just think that certainly if Devon Achane is going to be limited to start the season, I really do think that Ollie Gordon potentially can be trusted to take on, pretty decent workload from week 1, especially with Jalen Wright struggling. And I mean, what has he even shown in the year and a bit that he's been there? So yeah, I just think that we were able to get Ollie Gordon. He was a 4th round pick in a couple of drafts that I managed to get him in. What is he worth now? If he's seeing early touches on this potentially explosive Miami Dolphins offense, he's probably worth a mid to late 2nd round pick now. For me, he's going to be one of the big winners of preseason, and interested to see just sort of how big his role is heading into the 2025 season. And with that, James, I am so excited to talk about this next guy, especially with the update that we've had, the sad news today. But you're going to talk about, because you didn't let me talk about this guy, so you're going to have to talk about him for me. Egbuka, this guy's going to be all pro this year, James, isn't he?
Yeah, this is the one where this has been slowly building over the sort of the whole off season, really, with Egbuka ever since he was drafted, and there was a bit of sort of negativity, I guess, in terms of reaction to landing spots, which obviously I mentioned earlier, that we look at it and there's already 2 good wide receivers there. There's Jalen McMillan there. So yeah, this is a bad landing spot. We had him as consensus wide receiver 3 before the draft. And to be honest, I think that's still where he is in rookie sort of rankings and things like that. He's not really changed too much based on the landing spot. But there was one rookie draft that we did. We're both in it. And I don't know if you picked up on this, but yeah, he went in the 2nd. It was only 201, but Trey Harris was drafted ahead of him. I won't name who drafted Trey Harris ahead of him, but I just think obviously you go get your guy, that's fine. But I just think if you're picking those 2 players now, that was a bit too based on the landing spot basically, and you wouldn't necessarily do that now. But yeah, obviously there's more and more news coming out about the injuries that your Buccaneers have faced, and obviously McMillan. I think the news today, we were discussing just before the show, that it looks like he's going to go on IR as soon as the rosters are set, and he's going to miss half the season. So that straight away puts Egbuka as the 3rd option on the offense. And obviously Chris Godwin still isn't back. He's not back training. I think I saw something that he's not even been running at all with any other coaches or anything. So it's highly unlikely he's back until sort of week 4 at the earliest. So you're probably talking realistically 2nd half of the season before he's full speed. So yeah, there's a role straight away for Egbuka in this offense, and this is an offense that it was top 5 offense in 2024. We've seen the offense produce 2 top 12 wide receivers on multiple occasions. Pretty much every year that Evans and Godwin are healthy, they're top 12 wide receivers. Obviously, we go back to the Tom Brady days. I think there was even a season before Tom Brady there that they were both top 12. So it isn't even. Just seems to happen that they're that good that there's just going to be this opportunity in this offense. But yeah, obviously Egbuka's sort of a rise. He's a preseason winner because he's flashed in training camp. The Bucs seem to put out a video about him every day. And obviously, great catch in the preseason game, which everyone sort of jumped on. Basically for me, that there was a little bit of an overreaction to the landing spot early on, but everyone's kind of come back around to it, and all the signs are for this year is those. If we're going to get those sort of top 12 or at least maybe top 20 wide receivers from the Bucs offense, it's going to be Evans and Egbuka. It's not going to be anyone else. And then in the future, it's going to be Egbuka and someone else, and not Godwin and Evans. So yeah, it's just the momentum's with him. I really like the Bucs offense. Obviously you've lost your coordinator, but that happened last year as well. So yeah, I still got confidence in the offense and Baker Mayfield to support a couple of wide receivers. So yeah, I'd be still really happy to have Egbuka on my teams, and it looks like we're going to be more confident starting him early on than we were initially planning on being.
Yeah, I think you summed it up perfectly. Obviously, just very excited, and just thank God that we picked wide receiver 1st round when sort of nobody saw it coming. Perhaps the Bucs knew that at least Godwin's injury was worse than expected, or the timeline puts him back sort of midway through the season. I don't think we're going to see him, like you say, till at least week 4, week 5, week 6, and then is he really going to be 100%? Is this guy's ankle was twisted the complete wrong way round in a game, and that was towards the back end. Well, no, it's halfway through the season. So yeah. It's a struggle, and I just think Egbuka, the clip that Baker Mayfield put out early on in training camp, and it was not even mentioned about the wide receivers, not even the offense in general. It was just they asked Baker Mayfield, "What are you excited about in 2025?" And just the first thing that he mentioned was Egbuka is a stud, and he's going to be awesome. And that was it. That was really early on in training camp. He could see it. And this guy, yeah, we spoke about Trevor and Henderson and Egbuka, obviously from Ohio State. All he does was produce. He's been vying against great wide receivers that have come into the NFL, and they've been talked about far more than Egbuka. But Egbuka was almost just as productive as those guys, just maybe not quite as flashy. So that's exactly what the Bucs were looking for in a Chris Godwin replacement, because we know how the role that he plays. He's always getting himself injured, but he's so productive when in this offense when he's healthy, because he was wide receiver 2. On pace for wide receiver 2 when he went down to that injury. I think he led the NFL in target. So if Egbuka is now in that spot, he is going to be absolutely exciting to see. And I just look on Keep Trade Cut. He's actually up to wide receiver 17 now, and it could potentially go even higher because we know how much they like to overreact. So his question to you, James, is one spot behind Travis Hunter. Which of those would you pick for Dynasty right now?
I think I said I'd still take him as my wide receiver 3, but just because of the Travis Hunter upside. But yeah, I've just spoken about how much upside Egbuka is going to have as well. So yeah, it's certainly, like I said, it's a lot closer now. Just based on if everyone else is valuing him that way, then I'm going to sort of slowly lean that way as well. But yeah, I'd certainly be I'd probably be happier to have Egbuka on my team. And so if I can get a little bit for him and sort of make the trade down from Hunter to Egbuka, then I would. But like you say, that's probably not the opportunity for that's probably closed by now.
Yeah, agreed. And we'll move on to my final winner, which is someone that not been too excited to draft, but it was sort of one of those players that was a sensible pick in rookie draft. So another rookie, it's a quarterback, Jackson Dart, New York Giants. What I think will be the New York Giants starting quarterback, perhaps halfway through the season. And this isn't actually related to Russell Wilson playing badly, because I don't think he's been bad at all preseason. I think he's been fine. I think what you get with Russell Wilson. I just think this is more down to Jackson Dart has impressed me a lot from what I've seen in the preseason action. I know it's tough to garner when he's playing against backups and people like that, but I just think from what I saw at college, that system that he was in doesn't always translate to the NFL, and I think that he's going to be fine. And I think that because the Giants' schedule is just absolutely horrific to start the season, it's Wilson. If he comes out of it alive, he's going to be doing well. I just think that they're going to be probably 1 win, 2 wins from the first 10 games, perhaps. And I think that they're going to throw it over to Jackson Dart for him to come in week 11, perhaps even week 9. They're both home games. I think that he's going to come in and try and save the day, and at least try and save Brian Dable and Joe Shane's jobs. And then I think he's going to be the quarterback for 2026. So not necessarily been the most impressive player in preseason, but I think he's certainly up there. Certainly someone that people are talking about. And yeah, from where people were drafting him, I think it seems like a sensible pick that is now, once he takes the starting role, he's instantly worth at least the first and a second at the very least. So I think he's certainly got to be a winner. I'm not necessarily saying Russell Wilson's a loser, but I think that Jackson Dart has definitely come out of preseason looking impressive, and he's going to get, I think, at least 6 games in 2025.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me.
And we'll move on to the losers before my internet falls off. So talking of falls, this guy, Breece Hall, I love that you've put it in there, James, because Yeah, I've got some views on Breece Hall, and I'm interested to see why he was one of your losers.
Yeah, Breece Hall was one of these where I think every off season, or sorry, every preseason and in training camp and things like that, there's always a chance that we sort of go the wrong way and we react to the wrong bit of news, or because a lot of this is speculation. The teams don't have to tell us anything, and we're just watching preseason games where they only play the starters for a few snaps. So yeah, there's always a chance that we can overreact and look pretty stupid. And obviously you've got things like the Jamar Chase can't see the football, and we've got Justin Jefferson being listed as whatever he was, wide receiver 3 or 4 or whatever, something stupid it was for the Vikings on their depth chart. So yeah, there's always a chance that you can react to the wrong thing. Breece Hall was one of those players who he has enough talent that he can make us look stupid, and this could be exactly that, an overreaction, because at the end of the day, this is the Jets offense that are going to run the ball a lot. And Breece Hall is a good running back. I think we're on board with that fact. But I just think it just looks like it's going to be too much of a committee. That the real sort of buzz has been how much the Jets love Braden Allen. And they still have Isaiah Davis as well. And he actually was more efficient in terms of yards per carry than both of them last year. Obviously, he didn't have as many carries. It's a smaller sample size. But yeah, those are both capable backs that are going to be able to be sufficient in a team that aren't looking to get to the playoffs. They're going to be more than happy to spread the ball around. It's going to be a committee, and Breece Hall is the most expensive of the backs in the committee. So I'm just really not keen on him at the moment. I think in the preseason games, he's effectively played none of the short yardage, sort of third and fourth and one, third and one, those kind of downs. He just hasn't played. It's been all Braden Allen. It's a contract year for Breece Hall, so maybe they'll overwork him because of that. But all the signs are that they're going to move him on. So he's going to have to catch a lot of passes, because the Jets aren't going to score a lot of touchdowns because they're just not going to be good enough to do that. He will catch a lot of passes. I just don't see it being enough to pay off. I can't. What do you think is Keep Trade Cup ranking is now? Is he still top 12? I guess he's probably just on that borderline. He's running back 13. So it's right on the borderline. It's still pretty expensive. It's just too expensive for me, for someone who I think is going to be in a committee and on a bad team. And these are the vibes as well at the moment. Like that's just the way it is in sort of anywhere you're paying attention to preseason news all over Twitter, and everyone's talking about Braden Allen. And Breece Hall's the biggest faller. But like I said, he has the talent, and I think he is the most talented of those backs in that backfield. He's just not the one that's going to be there next year. And if this was a team that was trying to win games, and maybe they would hand him 20 carries a game because they don't care about his health next season. But they're not. They're going to want to see, is Braden Allen good enough to be their running back 1 next year? Is Isaiah Davis good enough to be their change of pace back next year? So I feel like they're just going to give those guys too much of the workload. For someone who was the dynasty running back 1 a couple of years ago, it's all bad news basically.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it, and I think it's not through anything because of him. I think it is just because of the situation, the fact that Braden Allen he's only just now 21 years old, and he's an absolute monster. Hated the landing spot when Braden Allen went there, because I thought that he could have been the starting running back somewhere else. But I think he's slowly progressed and will progress into that next year. And I think the best that we're going to see out of Breece Hall now, I think, is when he probably moves on to a new team and he can potentially be the Washington Commanders running back 1 next season. That'd be pretty exciting. But yeah, I just think that the Jets, they want it to be a committee. I think that for Breece Hall to pay off at his cost right now, he's going to have a lot of passes come his way, which Justin Fields likes to dump the ball off. So you could see that, or he's going to have to score a lot of touchdowns. And I don't see him having double-digit touchdowns this year, especially thinking that Braden Allen will be the short yardage running back. You got Justin Fields running them in as well. So I just can't see how he's going to pay off his price. And it's just a difficult one, because if you've got Breece Hall, you're just praying that a lot of this news is all spiel and that he's going to go back to having the majority of the carries, the work. You don't want to sell him right now because you're not going to get back what he's actually worth. It's just difficult. I think he needs a change of scenery in 2026 to reignite sort of his value to be where it should be. And with that, the negativity continues. So I'm going to move on to a few players that I couldn't think of one. So I've sort of grouped some together as I've called it the lingering injury list. So the likes of Joe Mixon, where the news just seems to be, negative. He doesn't seem to be any closer to returning to practice, returning to action. Doesn't look like he's going to be ready for week 1. He's been pictured with, I don't even know which doctor or whoever it was that he was with in some sort of plan that he's going through. It seems like they're sort of vying for him to be on the PUP and then come back at some point. If not, it could be even worse, but I don't think so. And I think that when Joe Mixon's back, I think he will just regain the RB1 role. I think there's obviously quite a few players that will take over while he's not going to be there. But I think that when he comes back, he will be the RB1. It's just disappointing from, he was really, really productive last year. And that this injury just seems to be lingering and that he's not going to be available for you for this year. And he's, he's getting up there in age now. This maybe was his last big opportunity to be an RB1. And we just know how quickly the likes of them can fall off. So Mixon, sort of more positive news was Matt Stafford coming back and returning to injury, which was a big surprise yesterday. Really positive surprise to see him on the field throwing passes. To me, he still looks rather stiff, and I think they're going to be slow with him. They're going to slow roll him and sort of protect him. They want him to be the quarterback 1 in week 1. I expect that to be the case, but I just think that re-aggravating injury, there's a big risk there. Is he going to be limited at all with a back and the situation that he finds himself in? It could be so limiting. If he's not full Matt Stafford, is he even any better than Jimmy G?
Yes,
I'm not sure. So certainly in Davante Adams' eyes, I think 75% of Matt Stafford is going to be better than Jimmy G because we've been down that road before. And I just think it has a knock-on effect. So I think Puka is going to be fine, whatever quarterback is in there. But I think Davante Adams, if it wasn't Matt Stafford, if he was to suffer a setback or re-injury, then I think that probably affects him the most out of anyone in this offense. So those two, and then Chris Godwin, we've sort of already mentioned him, but I just think that he's realistically not going to be back in the lineup where you can start him until probably mid-season. And at that point, has Egbuka showed up so much that Chris Godwin, the old role where he was, the wide receiver 2 and had the most targets in 2024 when he was on the field and healthy, perhaps that role's not there anymore. So you're going to see Chris Godwin come back, but be maybe 60-70% of what he was last year. And then he's getting up there in age. So perhaps his value as well is going to take a bit of a nosedive. Who knows? But yes, pretty negative towards sort of these players. And with that, we're going to hit the 2-minute warning. So I've found 5 of the top traded players on dynastydaddy.com. Absolutely love their trade finder. So this is an interesting bunch here, James. So really quickly, we're going to go from Ricky Pearsall first. So do you prefer Ricky Pearsall and Jordan Love or Drake May?
Yeah, I feel like this is more about the quarterbacks than it is Ricky Pearsall, right? I think I love Drake May, but I think everyone's a little bit too excited, and we just need to see a little bit more of it. And we have seen a little bit of that from Jordan Love. Obviously, he's been suffering from injuries. I think he even had an injury, didn't he, in the preseason. So I have them probably a bit closer than most people do. So I would just take Ricky Pearsall, that side of it, just because I'm getting Pearsall as well. I am Drake May over Jordan Love. I'm not saying I'm not, but I just think I have him a little bit closer than most people do. So if this is a fair trade to consensus, I'd lean the Jordan Love side just because I'm getting that extra piece.
Yeah, I thought it was just an interesting one. I know it's more about the quarterbacks here, but it's just where do you see Ricky Pearsall? And I think Ricky Pearsall could be someone that could be maybe a fringe wide receiver one this year with the situation. I mean, the 49ers, a bit like the Buccaneers at the minute with the injuries they're suffering, and he could easily be wide receiver one. So with that, I am probably higher on Jordan Love, the consensus, so I probably would lean that side. But yeah, it's a close one, and I think he could be a great value, Ricky Pearsall, this year.
Yep.
Our next player is James Cook, someone that has now sort of been paid. So thinking about that, would you trade James Cook for a 2026 first, as a random 2026 first, as someone has?
I don't like doing it now. I think value-wise, it's fine if this is the contenders first. If it's your first and you think that this is going to push you into being a contender, or if you've already got a first from someone else, then I'm fine with it. It feels a little bit too early to be trading a 26 first for a running back, but if this is a deal you have to make, and this is the time you have to make it, then yeah, I would. I think that value is fine. But yeah, just obviously running backs are very fragile, and it could look stupid in a few weeks if he gets injured earlier on in the season, and then you've given away your first, and you're not going to be a contender anymore.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's probably fair value because I think you're going to get James Cook on an elite offense for a couple of years. So I think a random first is probably about right. And yeah, it's always strange timing just before season to be going that heavy into a running back that could, go down to a career-threatening injury at any time. And yeah, I just think they're confident, obviously, in James Cook, and why not? If he was the James Cook of last year, then it's absolutely worth a late first-round pick if you think you're going to be a contender. We'll go to the most talked about player in Dynasty right now, Bill Croskey-Merritt. So he has been traded for a 2026 second and fourth. James, if you had your share of Bill, would you be trading for a second and a fourth right now?
It's hard to turn down a second for him, surely. I mean, even if we were talking about Brian Robinson a month ago, his value is around there, isn't it? Obviously, we're talking about the rookie. It's a bit younger. Everyone, he might be even better than Brian Robinson, but I think it's hard to turn down a second for someone that he was a fourth round pick. I don't know, like people were just picking him up just because, they needed someone to take in that fourth round. It's obviously good to take flyers and running backs. I would find it hard to turn down a second, but yeah, I probably are not going to get no one paying, sort of selling him for anything less than that now.
Yeah, I agree. I think if I had him, if I had one share of him, I think I'd probably be tempted just to hold him, just in case that he, they absolutely love him, and you could potentially sneak a first in there or a couple of seconds. But if I had 2 or 3 shares, then absolutely anything a second plus, I'd sell him for. And then the aforementioned Braylon Allen. So this is actually Braylon Allen and his teammate Isaiah Davis, or a 2026 second.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of a similar circumstance to the last one, but obviously we're talking about different players. I think I would take the shot here, and I would take the players over the second. If I'm selling these players, I'm not selling them now. I'm waiting to see, are they, what kind of workload are they getting, and then I'm going to try and sell them for more than a second in the season. But I'll be more than happy to take the shot on them and buy them now in basically what we've just been talking about. If Brees Hall is not going to get the workload that he sort of needs to get to sort of pay off that value, then I'd be more than happy to pay a second for these guys.
Yeah, I think someone's got a steal there. I think if there's sort of 50-50 timeshare, if Braylon Allen's running in touchdowns, if there's any whispers that Brees Hall's not going to be paid and retained by the Jets next year, then I think that Braylon Allen's his value is going to shoot up almost to a first round pick, because he's still so young and exciting on the offense. So we're going to finish with Jameson Williams. So this is someone that isn't talked about much, but the trade here is Jameson Williams or a 2026 first and 2026 third. Now, which side of that are you on?
I'll be on the picks side on this one. I don't dislike Jameson Williams. I think he's potentially going to have a more consistent role this year after being. He was fairly boom and bust last year, but I think he was certainly getting better in terms of being more consistent. I think he's going to be even more consistent this year. But yeah, just enough doubt to think about that offense without Ben Johnson there, and obviously we know that it's going to run through St. Brown and the running backs. So yeah, just enough doubts. I don't think I'd be wanting to pay a first for him, and if someone offered me a first for him, I'd definitely take it.
Yeah, there's a weird crowd that absolutely love Jameson Williams and think that he's going to just carry on what he done last year, and I don't see how he progresses on from what he done last year. He had over 1,000 yards. He had several touchdowns, and I just think that's probably the ceiling that you're going to see from him. He's never going to replace Amon-Ra St. Brown as wide receiver one. You've got Isaac Teslar, who seems like the second coming of AJ Green. And yeah, I don't see it. If I was to get just a first round pick, let alone the third on top, I think I'd be very tempted to sell Jameson Williams there.
Yeah, agreed.
So with that does bring us to the end of tonight's show. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to follow us and subscribe over on X and YouTube at Fantasy Wildcard and at Wildcard Dynasty. And join us for our show again next Tuesday, where it should be the best three and the return of a certain someone who's on the hot seat right now. So yeah, join us for our show next Tuesday. Thank you once again. And remember, when you have the wild card, you have the power to change the game.